Hi. I'd like to talk to you about something that I call DIY blindness, which essentially means completing a DIY project and then years later, perhaps even days or months later, looking at it and thinking, dear God, what have I done? For those of you that don't know, which may sound like the beginning of a bridesmaid speech, I am in the process of building out my own Victorian-themed coffee shop. It's probably time for me to level up a little bit. My DIY style is very trash-based, which works for some things, but in terms of a business and a space that needs to actually get checked off by the health department, I need to learn how to do more proper construction and more proper DIYs. Seeing as it's gonna be a minute until I can get these grubby mitts onto that coffee shop, I thought we could take care of a couple projects in my house that I did a few years ago and ever since have been irking me. I find them irksome. The first being this sort of Parisian-inspired bathroom that I did back in 2022, which I ever so affectionately dubbed the Oui Oui Room. This wall is all peel and stick. It's not aging well. There are spots that are pulling off. It's like yellowing in spots. Perhaps sunlight coming through. At least, dear God, I hope that that's what it's from. I did not do a great job applying this. Everyone uses this bathroom when they come over, and it just fills me with so much shame. I would love to replace this with real subway tiles, which I've only ever done once in my Practical Magic bathroom. Well, that one's crooked. By George, that makes me an expert. This ain't it. Probably gonna include some math, which is not what I was born to do. I was born to forage potatoes and sit by a warm hearth. You know, we adapt. Okay. Hold please. One of the first renovations I did to this barn was this stone wall. It's just a sheet of plastic, a couple sheets of plastic. I think I just painted over the grout. It's fine. It gives the illusion. Pretty much ever since I did it, I've been like, I don't love the color. I don't love that the rocks have like this digitally printed rock texture on it. And I don't love that there's no like dimensionality to it. About a year later, I did the stone wall over there, much more dimensional and relatively easy to do. So, my thoughts. Redo it in that method, maybe even adding a little bit more three-dimensionality to it so the rocks look like they're sticking out a little bit more. And then, this again was very early in my days of making things look like wood, which is basically what this entire channel has evolved into. I don't know, I think I can do better. So I would like to redo this. I've been collecting trash. And I think that we can make a different tree branch that looks like it's really growing out of the stones and up into the ceiling. I think I have a better grasp of what trees be doing. That is what is on the docket. A little ambitious for the amount of time that I have allotted myself. Can I get a tally-ho on 3? 1, 2, 3. Tally-ho! Now look, admittedly, this process would have been a little bit easier with AI, but AI. So I used this kind of confusing calculator online to figure out how much tile that I needed. And after whispering sweet nothings to the Halloween displays at the home improvement store, soon, I found the big old box of tiles that I needed. And also joint compound, which I had to watch my old video from 2022 on how I did that wall because I had completely forgotten. Here's the complete list of everything that I got. No. Fucking hot in here, oh my God. Mission accomplished. I even got a couple glizzies for me and my lovely husband. All said and done, 206, which honestly is not that bad. That is like a grocery shopping trip. Speaking of, and this was not a purposeful segue, but this video is sponsored, and to talk a little bit about how frick-frackin' expensive grocery shopping is, here's sponsor Rachel. All right, y'all, let's talk snackage. Today's video is sponsored by Thrive Market. Food-based sponsorships are probably my favorite thing because it means I get to pick out delectable items. Thrive Market is an online membership-based grocery store with the highest quality ingredients delivered right to your door. Listen, I'm a big snacker. Let's set that straight. I'm kind of on a mission to find a little bit healthier of snacks for when I'm feeling peckish. Thrive Market is great because everything on there, better quality ingredients, and you can filter by pretty much everything. Gluten-free, allergens, any requirement you may have. Instead of wandering the aisles of the grocery store, it's just right there. Here is what I picked up this time, all for under $100. For $5 a month membership, I would say that certainly covers it. And one of my favorite things is as you're checking out, it shows you how much you saved, and you have the option to donate that to provide immediate relief for SNAP members on Thrive. Not to mention, when you sign up for Thrive Market, you are automatically sponsoring a free membership for a low-income family. If you are a snacker like me, or you want actual food, Thrive is the place to go. If you want to check out Thrive Market, you can click the link in my description, or you can head to thrivemarket.com/RachelMaksy to join Thrive Market today and get $20 off your first 3 orders and a free gift. Thank you so much, Thrive Market, for sponsoring this video, and without further ado, let's get to destructing. All right. Okay, as you can see by my very professional setup here, I just need to set the level up, goes above that trim. Let's say that's about 1 Les Mis away from the perfect height. Oh, so close. The Little Prince. That's not bad. As with any historic house, you just got to embrace the wonk. So I'm gonna try to adjust that level from the bottom where you can't really see it, and then hopefully it's nice and straight all the way up, and then we might run into problems up top, but we'll worry about that later. I'm going to do, I think, a test strip. So just the very bottom row, starting where people can't really see it. See if I can get the swing of it. Right? Ready? Okay. Oh boy. Okay, row number 1. Trying to keep it level, all right? Not too shabby. I even cut one over there, which I'll show you tomorrow, but hey, I'm feeling pretty dang good about that. Oh, hell yeah. Like I said, I just wanted a little test, and tomorrow we're gonna really get going on this, so we'll see you then. Love that the fact that I'm sitting on a toilet talking to you, but hey, that's a situation that we're in. So it's going along slowly, but it's happening. It's actually quite nice. As slow going as this is, I am finding it quite thrilling. I can't tell you how nice it feels to be working on a house project again. I definitely took like a hiatus from that. We're waiting for the windows to be done, and I think at this point they're coming next week. We've kind of just been like in stasis mode with that, so I haven't really felt like I could do any house projects because we just have to get either redone or retouched because all of the trim on the windows is being taken off. So it felt silly to kind of commit to a project when I'm just gonna have to fix it or whatever. So I've been saving the bigger projects I want to do for that, but now I'm kind of in a weird situation with the coffee shop, which is why I wanted to do this now, because I've been putting this off for quite a while, and I know for a fact that a couple months from now, I'm gonna be swamped with coffee shop decor. Projects like this probably will fall to the wayside, unfortunately. Just wanted to knock this off of my to-do list. So if you're wondering why I have not really been doing home decor stuff, that's why. I am predicting, oops, That keeps happening and it drives me mad. I'm foreseeing that I'm not gonna have enough. And by that, I mean 1000% I'm not gonna have enough. The calculator misled me. I think the box is probably gonna get me about halfway. Not a huge deal because they are very inexpensive, so it's fine. I can just run out and get more, but I don't know what that calculator was on about. Every time you hear one of those noises, just know my soul is escaping my body bit by bit every time. This part goes pretty fast, the straight lines, but once I get to the edges where I have to cut, it's a little time consuming, and probably why I'm gonna need so much more, like 1-inch tiny little slivers from an otherwise good piece. I swear to God, I swear to God, I'm gonna rampage. Fun. In fact, we are coming up on an edge piece right now, so let me show you how I'm doing those. A little less than 4. Also, this wildfire smoke is insane. Look how dark it is in my house right now. It's not even 1 o'clock. Crazy! Welcome to Cutting HQ. Where I want to cut it, and I stick it in the tiler. You just go over it with a little bit of pressure just to score it. Schwap. There you go. I have to make sure I'm being very, very careful with the edges of sharp ceramic. I don't know if you know this about me. Dropping some lore on you. You can't really see it, but I have a scar right here. You wanna know how I got these scars? When I was a youngin', I was using the toilet, as you know, I am ought to do. It was just me and my sister. My sister was babysitting me. For whatever reason, I just like finished up and then I like leaned on this part of the toilet and it went. Jagged ceramic is like the sharpest thing ever. And so it sliced my finger. Wait, no, scratch that. That's not what this one is from. That's what this one is from. Anyways, my sister took care of me, did not take me to the hospital for stitches. I probably should have had stitches, but how I actually got this one, whittling myself a magic wand. Have I told this story before? I don't remember. You know, took a stick from outside, if you're squeamish, holding it, and took a sharp steak knife and was whittling, and of course, never whittle towards yourself, as the ancient prophecy tells. Choop! Right into my finger. Again, didn't get stitches. Maybe should have. I don't even think I told my parents. You know what's so funny is Nick also has a scar in almost the same exact spot, for almost the same exact reason. He too was a whittler by trade. So anyways, who doesn't love a little scar story? Oh, I have so much more to do. Oh. All right, I'm gonna put on some Dungeon Crawler, Dungeon Crawler, Carl, and get to work until the box runs out, and then I'm gonna have to go get some more.
20 minutes later.
I've officially run out of tiles, literally halfway. That's 44 inches all said and done, and then that's 44 inches. It smells like a campfire out here. Where the light is, we had to get a little creative, and Nick came up with the idea of just kind of mosaicing it. Then it was time to plug those cracks up with the most annoying version of kinetic sand. This was pretty hard to really squish down in there, and not to mention so frickin' messy. Just straight dropping plops all over the place. Jesus Christ. Which is why I readjusted the tarp that I had definitely already had put down at the beginning of this. I also think I waited way too long to start washing off the excess GROUT on top of the tiles because they started to get a little crusty, so I think I should have done section by section instead of like a giant mass. Nick did eventually go get me a grouting sponge, which made that whole process a lot easier. This took so long and my arms were so tired by the end of it, but we did end up finishing. All right then, project number 2. We got a lot of work to do. So the tile still needs a few finishing touches. We're gonna put like the trim back up and all of the knickknacks. In a lot of ways, I'm really freaking glad I finally did that tiling project. Not only because I've been putting it off for years, but also, I don't know. I feel like I had to prove to myself, and I guess in an extended way, to prove to you that I could do it. You know, with the news of us acquiring our coffee shop, you have all been very, very supportive, of course. There are quite a few people that have been like, girl, health codes exist. You can't be pulling your usual shit. And yes, I understand that. I know. I am not going to be putting foam and cardboard on the walls. So no worries, everything is going to be up to code. But for now, let's put some trash on my wall. Order of business here. Rip this PVC off the wall. It's a good thing I'm covering this with more rock because it's not pretty underneath that. I think I might have to just retire this bad boy. Yeah. Brute strength. Now that we've got a clean slate here, I can start kind of imagining what this is gonna look like. It's going to be kind of similar to that wall, puzzle pieced stones and rocks. And then next to that is going to be a little whimsical, craggy old tree that has found its way into the barn and is growing up into the wall. Taking scrap pieces of my insulation foam, cutting them into shape, just nailing them onto this, just to give the rocks a little bit more depth. And that's also gonna help me not use as much of the joint compound because I don't have to layer it. And it's a good way to use up my scraps and trash. So I'm gonna get going with that and I'll check in shortly. Woo! These are my rocks. These are just randomly laid out, and I think between this and then just having the compound itself, like some of the rocks will look a little bit more sunken in than this, I think we can cover the whole thing. I grabbed some of my EVA foam mats to try to do kind of the same thing, but a little bit less bulky. It didn't work as well. After those were all screwed down, it was the fun part of puzzle piecing all of the remaining rocks that I was just going to do with the joint compound. After fighting my ever-present intrusive thoughts of just eating this whole, I tried using this first because it was pre-mixed and I figured it would be easier. It wasn't. It was a little bit too runny and it didn't have quite the same effect that mixing it myself did. So what I ended up doing was just mixing handfuls of the powder kind into that until eventually I just used the bagged kind. After a dinner break, I came back for a very long night of getting work done. Inevitably, the rocks that I was making from scratch took way longer than just covering the foam bits. And at this point, I think I lost my marbles just a little bit. But I need But regardless of the quantity of marbles and finger blisters, I finally got it done and let them dry overnight. Good morning. This place looks like a Pillsbury Doughboy crime scene, but slight problem. And by slight, I mean considerably sized. It is just super humid. I think the rain last night didn't help. And so it's not fully dry. In fact, some parts are still quite gummy. Underneath that gummy, it's just wet. Especially the pre-mixed joint compound. The kind that I had to mix water with isn't as bad, but you can kind of tell how it's still gray in some spots. That means that it's not fully dry. Solution. I'm gonna try to turn the AC on, get the humidity out of here, and then smack this with some heat with my heat gun. Hope that I can get it at least a little bit more dry. So, wish me luck. Making an executive decision. I think this video is gonna be a two-parter. I just don't think physically there's any way that I can finish this wall in time, or the gigantic tree I would like to be growing out of this wall. I'm trying to hit it with the heat gun and it's kind of helping, but not a lot. My plan was to keep adding more layers to this to make it look less plastery. I want to build up some of these rocks a little bit more. I want to smooth them out, sand them down. I cannot do that unless they are 100% dry. I just need to decide here and now that this project will be finished in the second part. A lot of you are always urging me to do two-part videos to save, you know, my sanity. I am very much the kind of gal that needs to finish it right then and there and then never think about it ever again. Been really discombobulated lately with the coffee shop, and then we had guests stay with us this weekend, so that kind of made me a little behind with this project. Tiles took longer than expected. This took longer than expected, so. Could I maybe spend all day drying this, preparing it, and stay up until 3 in the morning painting it, and then stress myself out editing and getting it done in time? Perhaps. I think I need to be a little kinder to myself and not do that. The cleanup of this is going to be a monstrous task in and of itself. It looks like a 70s rock band just blew through the joint, if you catch my drift. I already feel a weight lifted off of my stress level. Next video, building this up, making it look a lot cooler, and then the gigantic tree. But for now, let's finish up the bathroom, shall we? All right. Is this the world's most underwhelming reveal? Because it's almost exactly the same as what it was before? Listen, I know in my heartest of hearts that this is much higher quality and is going to last forever. The peel and stick just wasn't cutting it. I cannot stress enough that looking at that peel and stick coming off and the yellowing and the bits that I didn't line up quite right, knowing that every guest, you know, that blessed this bathroom with their bodily fluids. Nope. Knowing that every guest could see that, I was feeling quite shameful about that. I feel like you have like a nice surface to look at. What I need to do from here though, actually nail these down. One of them is, but the rest are just mount taped to hell. Very precarious, especially this one. I need to get, I think it's like a ceramic tipped bit for our drill so that I can actually nail these down. Same thing for the toilet paper holder. What I also need to do is get a grout sealer so that this is easier to clean. I also need to touch up the brown paint. I don't know where that is, so I might have to go get whatever I used in the first round. I did not really intend for the only finished product of this to be just a tile bathroom, but I'm trying to be nicer to myself. Quite excited to finish the rock wall and do the giant tree in its own separate video. In the long run, I think it makes a lot more sense. At least you got a little sneak peek of the process of making the rock wall. Au revoir from the Oui Oui Room. Thank you again, Thrive Market, for sponsoring this video once more.
You can head to thrivemarket.com/RachelMaksy to join Thrive Market today and get $20 off your first 3 orders and a free gift.
I love you so very much, whether you're new or old to this channel. If you're new here and you feel like sticking around, feel free to subscribe. I upload every other Friday, and we have fun here. And I will see you in my next video. Bye! And so, where... Blah, la, la, la. I'm gonna lose my mind. Finishing up. Hey, baby. Moo, me, moo.